Hello Arty Peoples and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy and I am your host this evening. And today our job is beach. That's for you, Amanda. We are going to be making a little beach painting. Well, not a little. I'm actually making a larger one for you guys to follow along a little bit easier, but I have a little sample here of a fun little beach, almost like a diorama, but it's on a painting panel. Now, this is because I went over all of the different Lukas mediums that we have available. There were so many that I had to split it into two shows. And today I'm going to actually be using a combination of some gels and pastes. So we're going to get a combination of the two different kinds, and then we're going to be making a fun little beach painting that is super cute and very sellable if you guys are looking to make artwork that people can purchase. So I will put my little sample over to the side for now, and we are going to jump in to how to paint this. Now, before I officially do get started though, just a quick reminder, if you are interested in any of the products that I'm using today, go to the website, JerrysArtarama.com, and type in today's class code, which is JL401. So JL401, you type that in the search bar, and our teacher's cart should come up with everything that I'm going to be using today. So, first and foremost, I'm going to be, like I said, working a little bit larger. I'm actually working on the Da Vinci panel. The reason why is because since we are using pastes and gels and things that have a lot of weight, I don't want to be putting them onto anything that is like a stretched canvas. The reason why is the more weight you put onto a stretched canvas, the heavier it feels, and the more it's going to pull the fibers of your canvas and potentially have sagging later on. And we don't want that. That's why I also use the painting panel, because it's a rigid surface. We need to be working on something that's very rigid, and this is not moving at all. It's a very sturdy board. So I'm actually using the medium textured Da Vinci panel. And as you can see, the first step is to tone it blue. Now, the acrylic paints that I use throughout this process, honestly, brand does not matter. You can use whatever you have in your studio. I'm actually going to be using a combination of Golden, I have Lukas, and I even have some FW ink as well. So these are all acrylic based. All acrylics really love to work with each other. All acrylics will fuse to each other. So you can use a variety of brands. That's not at all a problem. So what I did here was I actually just toned my canvas with the phthalo blue green shade from Golden. This is the high flow acrylic, so it's really, really fluid. Now, even though it is really fluid, I didn't want the acrylic paint at its full strength. So what I did is I actually mixed in a little bit of airbrush medium. The ratio wasn't really all that important. It just got to a nice level of blue that I liked. It's not super light, it's not super dark. I just wanted to increase the transparency of that color so it wasn't like dark blue. Although now that I've done enough of these, because I can see my little samples above in front of me, I probably in the future will go darker blue, because I feel like that the next step will actually show up a little bit better on the darker background, but I wouldn't want to go full strength of that still. So instead of having make you guys watch me just paint this whole thing blue, I already did it in advance. So that is the first step. Just paint the whole panel blue, no matter what surface you're working on. Now, I did want mine to go over the edges, so I went ahead and did that as well. And yes, I painted absolutely everything, so I also just slammed it on the table. So the next step, we're going to actually be using our Mother of Pearl Structure Gel. Now this, well, we're going to be using the Mother of Pearl Structure Gel and the Pumice Mortar Structure Paste. So we're going to be using both of these at the same time. Now, I like the idea of not having just like a straight beach across the top. Like this works, yes, but I kind of wanted to have it, since it is a square format, I wanted to actually have my beach kind of start in the corner and kind of work its way out and get deeper and darker over in the corner. Because as you all know, that in general, when it comes to a beach, you have, you know, your sandy area, and then it kind of slowly fades out to like darker blue because the water gets deeper, and so like you lose that like the light reflecting through the water and kind of making it a little bit lighter. So I decided to use the mother of pearl because it has that shimmer, and I wanted it to look like the reflections and the refractions of light on the bottom of the water. You know how like you can see that kind of weird texture where it's like all those like snaky light kind of reflecting around. I'm terrible with words, but you know what I mean. I want to see that come through the blue of the water. So whether or not you're using this straight from the jar, or if you use it on your, sorry, I have a little dry spot there, or if you mix in a little bit of color to this, whatever you do, make sure that it's a very transparent color. You don't want to destroy that mother of pearl kind of glow to this. But what I do is, and we actually are going to want to go to the overhead camera for this. There we go. All right, so whether you're pulling it straight from the jar or put it on a palette, what I do is I kind of put a blob there, and I put my palette knife just flat on it, right? And then I lift straight up. You can see that texture that I got, right? You can also see that I got the same texture on my palette knife. Now, this might take a little bit of practice for you at home, and you can also very much practice on your paper palette if you want to try that first before you actually start working on this. But what I do is I actually just very lightly touch that raised area of the mother of pearl onto my canvas. So it's easier said than done. Just like that, right? So if I do that and I start crisscrossing it, eventually, yes, I am going to run out of the mother of pearl on my palette knife. And the more I tap it onto my canvas there, the more I get more ridges, because that it's not structure paste, it's the structured gel, sorry. I'm trying to remember, gel and paste. I'm going to be mixing those up. So the mother of pearl, the more I tap this down, the less medium I have on my palette knife, right? So it's starting to work its way down. So I'm going to start getting these really like blobby areas. Now, if you don't like what you've done, you can wipe it away fairly quickly, but honestly, this is going to get covered up eventually. So it's not super important that it's absolutely perfect, but the more you layer and the more you kind of tap on top, you can get kind of those like little refraction patterns. So I'm not fully covering the whole thing. I'm just tapping this like weird little pattern on top, and it's always going to be random and gonna give you a good variety. Now, don't forget your edges as well to go over those. So what I like to do, I also really like to hold my panel because it just makes it easier for me to control everything. But it's the exact same thing. But if you make sure that you're constantly changing the angle of your palette knife, you won't get an exact identical pattern over and over again. You're going to get some variety, and then you'll go over it, and then you'll change your direction, and then you'll start getting these really cool pattern, which just looks like, it just reminds me of like the water, the light going through the water. So something like that. Now, as I get closer, because I'm going to have like my beach area in this corner, so I'm going to have the sand kind of come out that way, and the closer I get to where my sand is going to be, I want actually less of like that tall rigid peak. I want more of like a flat amount of the mother of pearl gel, because the less I have on there, the less the peaks are going to be, but the more I kind of get this like small texture going on, because it feels like the thinner the water, the like smaller those little refraction spaces are. So like the more palette, or the more gel that you have on your palette knife, the wider everything's gonna be. And then as you like sort of like lose that amount on your palette knife, I hope this makes sense, you're gonna get smaller and smaller texture patterns. And then of course onto the side. And I always try to make sure, if you're worried about getting anything on your table, you can always put a palette knife, or the palette paper pad, tear off a sheet of that and work on that as well. It kind of helps protect your surface. I'm not super worried about it on this table. That's okay. I didn't get like the big textures that I wanted there, so I'm just going to go over top of it. I'm not too worried. Again, all of this is going to be covered, but it's going to be covered with something that is transparent, so we're going to be able to see it eventually. And of course, if you guys do have any questions while I'm going throughout this process, make sure you pop them in the chats. I have my amazing moderators, Amanda and Jillian, over there to help you guys. If you ask a question, we can answer it live while I'm here. And then I'm going to actually pull off a little bit of that. And just like that, put a little bit over here too. I'm okay if it like also overlaps with where my sand is going to be, because once this dries, I can always add more. Oh, I forgot an edge. I can always add more, but once I add the next layer, if I'm missing a section, it's going to be very obvious. Like if I missed this whole side, I'd be a little bummed. Alright. What's really cool about this, because I know we were talking about this earlier today, those beach like the beach paintings that I've seen a lot of the times with resin, a lot of the times, I've seen that happen quite often with the resin happening as the medium. Those are really fun. They're really beautiful, but what we were talking about is that I always struggle with like resin being really messy. It flows like water. It wants to flow right off your panel. So it's hard to get like an edge on it like you can get on this one. But then on top of that, you have to have ventilation. And if you don't have that, it's going to off gas, and you could have toxic fumes in your studio or in your house, depending on where you're working. And that's never good. So this whole process right here is a nice non-toxic way of getting a beach painting without having to worry about those fumes, because everything I'm using is non-toxic. I want this to go up a little bit more, because I don't know where the sand is going to end. Okay, I'm joking. I actually do know where the sand is going to end, because I have a magical, it's going to be dry in a second. But that is the mother of pearl. And let me actually grab this in this corner so you guys can see. I got the mother of pearl laid on all the corners, all the edges, and across the top. And because this is acrylic, it's just going to dry through evaporation. It's not super thick, so it should dry fairly quickly. But since I have my thinner layers right here, that'll dry even faster. And I'm going to actually just turn it like this so I can just work in this corner. And we're going to next use our pumice mortar structure paste. So this is essentially sand in a jar. Nice and easy to use. I'm not mixing it with anything. I'm just going to take it straight out of the jar and plop it on there, and I'm going to make a beach, because our job is beach. Okay, now this one I am going to actually try and get it off the table here. Hold on. Use my palette knife to kind of lift it, because this is why I really like to be able to just hold everything, because then I can rotate it as I need to. Makes it a little bit easier for me to have the dexterity like that. And so I don't want just a perfect like half circle in the corner of my my canvas here. I want, like, you know how the beach has like some areas where it goes down further, and then it kind of maybe comes up a little bit and it goes down again like that. Something like this. I want variation to the beach area, and I want it to have a good flow to it. Do we have a question?
Yeah, we were wondering if you had a reference photo or if this is just an instinctual kind of creation.
Just instinctual. There's no wrong answer when it comes to this. If you guys do want to check out a reference image of like a beach from above, you can absolutely go to unsplash.com or Pixabay. Those are the royalty-free websites that I always go to. So does Michaelia. They have a million images that people allow you to have permission to use. And that's a really great place to get inspiration from. So if you type in whatever you want in the search bar, like beach from above, it'll come up with a ton of photos and you can kind of have that as like a reference, which would be great. But no, I'm just kind of, I don't want to say winging it, but I'm winging it because I'm a Floridian and I know what beaches look like. It's in my blood. I've lived on the beach for a very long time. So now with this is where we can start playing with dimension and the texture of the mediums. Now before I actually get to the edges, I want to show you guys this. I'm going to get thicker here and then it's going to taper off. But the way that I'm going to do that, I'll hold it this way because this is going to be easier for me to swipe it this way away from me, is that I'm going to make those like water kind of line. How do you describe that? Like where the water comes up and it kind of stops and then it flows back. It's never straight, but it always kind of like leaves these like little crisscrossy patterns in the sand. The tide lines, I don't know.
Sure.
Somebody in the comments, tell me what word I'm trying to think of. Y'all know I struggle with words, it's fine. So where, like, you know, this would maybe be where you set up your tent and your towel, and then the water flows up here, and then it leaves those like crisscrossy lines like that. I want some texture in what I'm sculpting almost. Now I'm going to try and attempt to do the exact same thing on the edges. What's really cool is this is quite thick. I'm going to actually just kind of leave the edge of that on that side of the table. But it's really thick and it doesn't fall off, which is delightful. It's very easy even when you're using these vertically. This paste is nice and structured enough to where it's not going to just slough right off. But I'm going to kind of keep the texture that's on the top going around to the edges. So, starts thick over here, and then it'll kind of taper off into nothingness as well. And sort of a line that comes out here and goes around. I just want to be consistent with where everything kind of ends from the top to the sides. And also the texture that I added in. So you can even just drag your palette knife from the top down to the bottom or down to the side. And if it's not perfect, that's totally fine. Beaches aren't perfect either. But we're going to do the same thing as I stick my hand in the mother of pearl medium. Same thing over here, just so we have that consistency. And when it comes to like the corner, I don't really want a sharp corner either. I'm just going to kind of add a bunch more of this sand paste and just kind of sculpt it around to where it looks a little less like a sharp corner, but you know, still gonna have to bend around. And then I also do like to take my palette knife and kind of scrape the side edges as well, just to keep those nice and clean, because when this is going on a wall, I don't have any intention of framing this because I've now painted the edges, which is really, really wonderful. I don't think framing is going to be necessary, but also framing would be a little difficult because I'm adding so much medium. If you are wanting to frame it, don't do this to the edges because you're going to have a hard time fitting this into a frame. This is adding a lot of bulk to the sides. So side note there. But I want it to be nice and flat on the back. And if you have medium stuck back here, it's going to kind of bump it off the wall or scratch your wall potentially, which is not ideal. We don't need to damage that. So, do we have a question? Okay, so I wasn't sure if that was a question or not. But again, if you do, let me know. All right, so I'm gonna just kind of turn this a little bit so I can start adding in those textures. And if the texture slightly changes, that's also fine. Just trying to kind of keep those lines and textures sort of in the same area. So there we go, right? You have a question?
Yes, on YouTube, we were wondering how you keep the corners from cracking as it dries.
So here's the fun thing. The example that I'm about to show you, that is dry, because I'm, did advanced examples so that we wouldn't be sitting here waiting for this to dry. The example that I'm about to show you did crack. It did crack. Not a ton, but just a little bit. Like it had a little like crack right here. Once it's fully dry, it is acrylic base, so it's gonna have some flexibility to it. So all I have to do is take a little bit more of my mortar paste, the pumice mortar structure paste. Take that and just fill in the crack. That's all I did. It might crack because I am going so thick. This is the one medium that can crack on you. No, you can work with that because, beaches have a lot of texture and it's not going to really bug me if it has a crack, but if it bugs you, you can absolutely just fill it in after it's dry. That's not a big deal at all. And I'm going to show you the next one and you're not even going to know where it cracked. Now, before I actually do let this fully dry, I am going to take a rag or a paper towel and I'm going to actually just dab the edges of the sand where I have that meeting the mother of pearl, because I really don't want there to be a super harsh edge. I really want it to look like it's just getting so deep with the water that you're not seeing that sand anymore. And so like for example right here, I have a pretty hard edge. If I just left that, you would see that through all of the next layers that we put on, and that would probably bug me. But a little bit of paper towel or the rag and just kind of soften those edges just by like dabbing and just like a slight buffing motion. I'm not trying to take it off, I'm just trying to soften it a little bit. You have a question?
Yeah, what is the drying time on the sand paste?
The thicker you go, the longer it's going to take. So that's a great question, by the way. I honestly just left it overnight and by the next day it was dry, like fully dry. And to be completely honest, it's been really humid here in North Carolina. So dry time is always going to change depending on the thickness that you're painting, the humidity that you're in, your environment, how hot, how cold. We are getting ready to get into colder weather. So if you do this in the winter, it's going to take longer to dry than if you do it in the summer. So it's going to vary, but this is acrylic base, so by the next day, it should be dry. Unless you're in like 100% humidity, then I cannot help you. It's going to take a long time to dry. But this is the second step of what we want to get to. Now here's the thing. If you want to do both of these mediums separately, you can. If you are worried about putting your hand into the mother of pearl, or if you're worried about, doing this first and then you put the mother of pearl on top, because you could put mother of pearl into like on top of the sand that we're going to cover up with our water. You could do that too. If you wanted to separate that process, you can. Just for time purposes of us being on the show, I decided to show you them together because it's water-based. It's not going to take a ton of time to dry. I can actually tell you that some of this is already starting to dry. You can actually see the more it dries, the more flash you get because that milkiness from that goes away to an extent, but through the movie magic here, ta-da, it's dry. Now this is the one I did patch with the pumice mortar structure paste. Can you tell where I patched it? Nope. It was actually, yeah, it was right here. There was a slight crack that happened. Not a huge deal. I just put a little bit more on there. No, not a massive problem. All right, now let me clean off my palette knife. I actually do have some water here that I'm gonna need in a minute, but also I'm making my towel very, very sandy. I feel like I'm at the beach right now. This is also where I wear an apron. Okay, so what's really cool with this is that now that everything's dry, you can actually see that mother of pearl reflecting, and you can see right where it ends with the sand, and that is fully dry. Everything is nice and hard, nothing is moving, no problems, nothing whatsoever. This is the other part that I wanted to show you. My FW ink that I have in there, this is a fluorescent blue. I have fluorescent mixed into the mother of pearl. I actually did do 2 layers here because I really wanted to show you guys this. So I'm hoping that this is going to look like bioluminescence when it goes through the water layer that we're about to mix in. If you do want to mix this into your water layer, you can also do that and make the whole thing glow, which is really fun. But this is, I will say, most fluorescent colors are going to be really transparent. So you're going to have a hard time getting a good amount of blue with this. So this is why I put it in the mother of pearl, and I'm going to put it in the glass beads in an example that I'll show you in just a minute. But that is an option that you guys can do, which is really fun. Now I'm going to actually just turn this and get kind of a clean area. And yes, I really had a hard time not quoting Moana on that one. They know I love Tamatoa. Alright, so next we are going to use our crystal gel, and I take that back. Hold please. This is the step I always forget. This is why I wrote down notes too. I want to paint my sand. This is a sand color, but it's not as like yellowy brown as I want it to be. I don't know. It just feels a little gray to me, which is okay. Honestly, it is a sand color, and if you're making this for like a maker's market or something like that where you want to sell these, this is an unnecessary step. But if you have a couple colors of like sand that you have in mind, like, I don't know, have you ever gone vacation in a place that has like the volcanic sand where everything's black? That's a really fun idea. You could have the dark sand, but something like that, something that's like local. Like if I'm trying to sell this to like Outer Banks, you know, people, that would be something that I would want to make sure that my beach matches the beach that I'm at, you know. So I have the transparent brown iron oxide, and then I have the transparent yellow iron oxide. I simply grabbed these because it happened to be a brown and like a sort of yellow ochre kind of color. Again, brand and color specifically does not matter, as long as it has the right kind of color feel to you. Now, if this is really strong, you don't have to fully cover. You can just do some dry brushing, which is really, really simple, but it'll kind of warm up the sand a little bit, which makes me feel like that's more accurate to the beaches that we currently live at. And I'm gonna also just grab a little bit of water just to kind of lighten it a little bit. Now, again, if I don't like something, if I catch it fast enough, I'm gonna get a little water on my rag here. I can actually dab off quite a bit, like if it goes too strong. The other thing is that this is, again, all acrylic based. If you use the wrong color and you dislike it like the next day and it's fully dry, you can always fully cover it with like another color mixed with white. You can do white dry brushing on top of that too. But what I really wanted to do, I got a little too dark there. I really wanted to make it darker as it starts going into the water area, just like the sand gets darker as it gets wet. I think that's a little too much over here. So again, just a little dab will do ya. These are really strong colors. But like we got a lot of options as far as like colors are concerned. I threw a bunch of colors in the cart. So I think I have Charvin, I have Lukas, I have the golden. But I wanted it to get darker where the water goes into it. But I did want to warm up the rest of it though. So just a quick little dry brush on the rest of it. And it's sand. There's variety of colors when it comes to sand. Doesn't have to be uniform. Just a little scrub. And for anybody who is wondering, I am using a Bestie brush. This is a golden Taklon. The reason why I really love golden Taklon for this kind of a project is because this is a synthetic bristle brush, because I am essentially using it on a pumice stone at this point. So whatever I use on here, I am now beating up my brushes. So don't use your fancy Kolinsky sables or anything like that, because you will destroy your brushes over time. And I will be very sad for you if you use like a really super fancy brush and it gets absolutely annihilated on this rough surface right here. Now, if I do go into the like mother of pearl area with this, it's still fine because the color that I'm using is really transparent. As you can see, like where I'm mixing them together, you can see that is very, very transparent. And that's okay, because that's exactly what I need. But if it goes over the mother of pearl, you can still see that flash of shine kind of come through a little bit. But I'm not being super perfect with this. I just need to tone it a little. And I think that's probably a delightful color. I honestly, the next sample that I have here, I did not paint nearly enough. I told you, I honestly kept forgetting this step, and I think it really does add a little something that my next sample doesn't have, but I kind of caught it when I was halfway through the crystal gel. And also because I'm doing this in such a light layer, it really doesn't take a whole lot of time to dry. So I'm actually going to keep working on this one as we go. But yeah, so there we go. So you can look like, it looks like the water line is here, and that's like the dry area of the beach. It should make sense once I start putting on the crystal gel as well. Now, I will say, if you are interested in the crystal gel that I'm about to put on and you're like, ooh, I can just make it look like wet water by mixing in this brown and putting that on top to where it just looks like it's wet, don't do that. I tried it. It looks awful. Fun fact. I had the same thought and it didn't work. So just fair warning you there. Now for this one, we are going to use the crystal gel, which is the gel that is absolutely crystal clear. Again, I'm using a very transparent color with it. And I did find that I actually really enjoy this with a lot of transparency. I added a lot, and I'll show you my other examples here that I have on the table. The more blue that you add to your medium, the darker it's going to be as it dries, because everything is going to go crystal clear. I found that like I really liked a lighter version. It's going to take some time and some experimenting for you guys to see what you like at home. But remember, you can always add more layers on top. You can't take them away. And this is why I really do love, and this is honestly why I have these little tiny examples, because I was doing little ones to see the process and try and see what I like. But you can see I got really dark here. And I really liked it, but I kind of wish it had gone a lighter before it got up here. just because I felt like it should have, but that's okay. We live, we learn, and I hope you learn from my mistakes. But I'm going to need to just keep this jar open and off to the side. This is a quick process, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time for us to get this coated, but the reason why I am yammering is because I'm trying to make sure that this dries. I do have a hair dryer, but I don't think I need it. It was such a light coat of paint. I think we're good. So the reason why I haven't mixed anything in yet is that I do want to put a couple layers of just the pure medium up here at the very top, because I want the water to look wet but not like underwater. So we're going to slowly build that up, and I'm going to do everything on the front. I'm going to do to the side as well. Now I'm not being super precise with this. I'm just kind of slapping it on, and I'll start finessing it in a second. But what I do know that I'm going to do is not let it go up past that dark line, because I want to make sure that it doesn't get super shiny up above that. Then I'm taking my brush. You can also have a different brush for this if you want to. And I'm gonna kind of like work that medium down to where it's just a thin layer up here where the water, it looks like the water is just hitting the sand, but it's not underwater. So, because every time I put this medium on here, it's gonna go really glossy. So it's gonna look wet because it's gonna be shiny, but kind of keep it on that sort of water line that I have going on there. And then as I work further down, the thicker I'm gonna get with my medium to a certain point, and I do have some of that brown that kind of just came off a little bit. It's okay. It's gonna mix in, it's fine. It's just a very small amount. If it was any more than that, I probably would let that fully dry before I actually do this, but again, we're on a time crunch here. Panic, beach painting, right? All right, now that I got a little layer of the just clear medium, because remember, it is milky white as it goes on, but it dries crystal clear. Now I'm gonna start mixing in some of my phthalo blue. I chose phthalo blue because I like that it's like it's the green shade of the phthalo blue. I like that it's like that pure, like bright cyan kind of blue. It just reminds me of like nice, crisp, clean beach water kind of a thing. It's the beach color of it's the color of water I want to see, but rarely did I actually see, because things go kind of brown on you. But for a beach painting, we want something pretty. You don't want to paint brown water, right? All right, now I'm going to actually mix in a lighter section here. Kind of pull it off. If you don't fully mix in your the blue, if it's not super consistent, that's okay too. It can have some of like the paint where it gets a little bit more intense in some areas, and then it can have some other areas where it gets a little bit lighter. Like, I think that's fun to have that variety. Now I have this light blue, and I'm going to start mixing into where I have that crystal clear area. Again, anything I do on the front, or on the front, yeah, I'm going to do on the side too. Freaking words. Kind of get almost like a little bit of a gradient. Now, if I find that I have too much of that blue, I'm going to actually just make sure I wipe off my palette knife before I grab more of the medium, because I don't want cross-contamination in my jar, because anything I put in there is going to live in there forever. But just kind of like mixing it almost like on the canvas, on the palette, or canvas, yep, words. And then just kind of mixing it down. There's a lot of medium on that side of the panel. Kind of like that. I do need a little bit more of the pure medium on the side here, so I can get a little bit more of that gradient up here. Started getting a little bit more blue up there than I wanted, which is okay. Just wanted to kind of have nice consistency. Now, if you do have like some areas where the sand kind of sticks out a little bit more than you wanted it to, that's okay. Again, remember you can always do this in layers. And if you get through to this and you find that there's some areas that you're just not happy with, add some more medium. You can always add more of these layers as well. Now, this is where I'm going to actually turn my canvas this way. And I'm going to address the sides after I fully finish the top. But the reason why I want to go this way is because I want to go side to side like my waves would go. I'm not going to go up and down because your waves aren't going to be vertical to your beach. They're always parallel to the beach. So I'm going to start making sort of wave texture. And I, again, would continue it along the sides here. So anywhere where there's like a little wave kind of happening, I would kind of keep it going onto the side and kind of add that way, right? But just for time purposes, I'm going to add more medium. And this is where I'm going to start getting darker and darker too. And remember, it looks kind of milky right now, but it will dry crystal clear. And I'll show you what it looks like in a minute, which I'm very excited about. And what's really fun is that, actually, let me grab a little bit more medium and lighten that just a little bit more to show you guys this. Mix in a little bit more. Try to make sure I don't go all the way over there to my brown paint. Yes, we have a question?
Yes, if you wanted to put something like in the water or in the sand, is there like a specific order or
Yes.
layer that you should? Okay.
There is. When your sand is wet, if you want to put like a little sand dollar or like a little seashell in there, that is a great time to do it. Like if I wanted to pop in a seashell, this is still wet. I could actually just absolutely squish it in right now. But if you don't squish it in while it's wet, you're gonna have to fuse it somehow, like with the glue or something. Now for the water, if you wanna have something in the water, like if you have like a little thing, that, like a seashell or something that you wanna put in, now is the time to do it, before you do the water. And again, you could always do it in layers. That's absolutely possible. But I will show you, that's a great question. I will show you that in a minute. I have an example of that too. But before I forget what I was doing, I want to show you how to make waves, like crashing waves. So this actually, maybe we go to that side camera so you guys can see this a little bit better. Cool. All right, so I'm going to load up my palette knife, right? And then I'm going to kind of drag it along, and then once I get to where I want to wave, I'm going to pick it up and forward. And I can actually make a little wave like that. And the more I do that, kind of like with the mother of pearl, the more wave you can get. And if I want to maybe add some more waves back here, and I can actually add more that way. Now, if I like the idea of it being like clear water, I can add just pure medium and add that on top as well. And that'll go clear while the rest of it's nice and blue, which is really fun. Hopefully that is focused. There we go. And again, I would also go all the way around to the edge and keep that going across the sides as well. So that is beach waves, which is really fun. But for the rest of this, we are going to keep going with the water texture. And actually, I do need a little bit more of that blue mixed in. That might have been too much. It's okay. And what's cool is that if you make these like in batches, because you can make quite a few of these at the same time, you can have almost like, I would probably mix one tub, a certain blue, another tub, another blue, and I'd probably have different tubs that I just pull them from. But I want to make, yep, that was a little bit too dark. And if it's too dark, that's okay. I can always come back in, add more medium. I want to make sure that that is absolutely clean before I dip into my tub, because I only have the one right now. But if you're making these in mass to sell at like a maker's market, this would be a really convenient way of doing that, is just to have them kind of mix the right color in your jar and then just have it ready and at hand to kind of make a bunch of them. And if you want, you can also add like a little bit of like a swirl. So like we can start angling that line instead of having it go perfectly straight. You can actually have it kind of have some motion to it, right? Now, I'm going to actually, because I know we're going to run out of time, I am not going to finish this one, even though I probably will off camera, just because I want this one done when I'm, you know, by the end of the day, because this has the bioluminescence and it's going to bring me joy. So I am going to keep this off camera, but as you go down, I'm going to probably have it go a little bit darker again down here. And by the time I finish this off camera tonight after we end the show, it's still going to be wet. I can still add to this. It's not a big deal. Now, if I got to the point where I got here and I had to, say, run out the door, I can still work on this. This is still fine. If I pick this up tomorrow, I can still add more. This is acrylic. Acrylic will always fuse to acrylic. You can always come back to it, which is really, really wonderful. So I'm going to just pop that off the camera real quick. Make sure I close this, because otherwise I will get that everywhere. The other thing, oh, I'm so sorry. I actually take that back. I am going to pop this back on camera real quick because I wanted to show you this. This is glass beads, and they make it look like bubbles. These bring me so much joy. Now, there are certain areas that I add them to that have been really successful, and I wanted to show you that. It's literally, again, also milky white, but it has glass beads in them, and this works really well for like the little sea foam that's right where the water kind of comes up. The other areas I've been adding them to, and I do let this dry first, but then I'll come in with the glass beads and I'll add them just to the top of the waves where it looks like the bubbles are kind of like falling over the waves as well. But I wanted to show you that as well because it just brings me so much joy. Yes, we have a question?
Yeah, we were wondering if you could remind us how the dry time goes with these layers.
Again, it does depend on your studio. It depends on your humidity levels, the temperature outside. It's really hard for me to give you an absolute answer on that. But I will say, for the most part, because everything is acrylic based, it usually will be a day. I can come back in a day no matter where the studio, and it should be dry by then. So like I said, if you're making these like in mass for like a maker's market or something like that and you want to sell these, do one layer for like 20 of them, leave the studio, come back the next day, then you can continue those on, and then maybe do another 20 on the first step, and then you can have like batches in progress kind of a thing. Yes?
With it being plastic, do you ever want to use a heat gun to dry it?
I wouldn't use a heat gun to dry it personally. Maybe I would use a hair dryer, but the layers that I'm adding, the only thing that would really work on is the painting of the sand, because that is such a thin layer that it would work with the hair dryer. The mother of pearl would use with a hair dryer. You could sit there and dry it off that way. Everything else is so thick that you're going to be standing there for hours with a hair dryer, and I don't know what you have going on, but I don't have the patience for that. I don't know anybody who has the patience for that, because that would drive me insane. I'd just be like holding a hairdryer constant. Like that, you would have to just set them up somehow to just be pointed. If you have a giant fan in your studio, maybe that would be a good way to do it. But airflow is going to help your dry time, something like that. But they don't dry too terribly slow. It's acrylic based, and acrylics dry through evaporation. So the rate at which the water in these mediums are evaporating out is how long it's going to take you to dry, essentially. But some of them are thicker. So it's the sand medium, there ain't no way. But this is sort of the dry version of that layer that we did. Now, here's the really fun part, is that if I do that, you should be able to see that mother of pearl kind of shining through. I don't know if that's coming across on camera. I hope so. Yay. But that's what I wanted it to look like. And the more texture you add to it, when you do that palette knife, the more you're going to get these like darker areas where it looks like almost like waves crashing forward. And then the thinner areas are going to go kind of really transparent and a lighter blue. Now, if you get to this stage and you go, I want more shimmer, you can add another layer of mother of pearl the exact same way that we did it before. And then you can let that dry, and then you can do another layer of the crystal gel with the blue and kind of build it up that way. This one right here that I did as a little example has 2 layers of that crystal gel and the mother of pearl, so it actually has a good amount of flash in there once you hit it with the light, and it hits that mother of pearl that's underneath all these transparent blue layers, which just makes me very, very happy. But I'm sure you can also see that it has a little shimmer on the top that I will show you how to get to as well. But to get there, so now at this point in time, and as you can probably see, I didn't paint the sand as much as I wanted to. I honestly forgot this layer. But I did hit the top of this with a little bit of that paint after I did the resin or the crystal gel with the blue. So I did actually paint this afterwards, and it still looks just fine to me. I didn't go all the way down. I just kind of stuck in this little corner just to kind of tone it a little warmer. But everything is nice and dry. Again, it takes maybe a day. And I want to finish this off in a couple of different ways. I don't think this one actually fluoresces at all, but I do have one over there that will. But next I have an iridescent pearl fine. You can either use this, you can also use a white paint, you can use them in tandem. You can do layer of the white and then also a layer of the pearlescent as well. You can use silver. You can use anything that has a sparkle that brings you joy, essentially. This I liked because, again, I'm dry brushing this, and it has a really lovely kind of shine to it, and it doesn't go on very, very opaque. Here, I can actually just pull this over a little bit. So it's really fluid again. I'm going to use, again, the exact same brush that I've been using, just make sure it's clean. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of that pearlescent kind of paint onto the edge of my brush, and I'm going to dry brush all the glass bead that I put up here, and that's going to look like seafoam bubbles, which is just going to make me so happy. Just a quick little dry brush. And here's the really fun part, is that, again, if you don't like it, you can wipe it right off. I should say, if you don't like it and you wipe it right off, you might actually just shove it into the nooks and crannies of the sand. So if you really don't like it, get it off with a little bit more water and it should flow off of there. But if you get too much on there, you can wipe it off with like a paper towel or a rag quickly enough before it dries. I actually did that with one of the other ones. I added just too much white and I was like, oof, that's too much. So I took a Soho wipe and I actually wiped most of it off. But the thing I like about this pearlescent color is that it actually is really subtle and I can build it up. So the more shimmer I want, the more I'll add. And then I'll, you know, by the time I work my way all the way down to down here in the corner, I can actually come back up and add more to the top as well. So what I'm doing is actually just taking the flat edge of this, and I am almost sideways on the canvas, and I'm just kind of letting it hit the top of all the textures that I've made. I'm not being super careful with it. I'm just dry brushing the top. There's a big blob of the resin gel there that's kind of sticking straight up. So here's a wave that's crashing right here, and if I just grab the top of that whole area, I can actually do a little bit more onto my wave. It's actually a very weird shape, but okay. It's a weird wave. That's all right. And if I don't like that, I can always add more later. Shape of the wave. I have also cut off, like, if I have like a weird blob sticking off the edge here, because like it's hard to really control getting that texture to go around the edges. If I had a weird triangle kind of blob sticking off of the resin gel, I have just taken an X-Acto blade and cut it right off like it never happened. But I would say use your pearlescent or your shimmer or even the white highlights like this. Use it sparingly. I'm going to actually use a little bit of white now too. Because you have to remember this is like the highlights of your artwork. You don't want too many. If you have too many, it's a lot for people to focus on. I feel like this white is going to make it shine a little bit faster so you guys can have like more instant gratification here. We need more of a visual. Now, if I actually take this, and I just did that, right? Got too much on there, and I just take my finger and rub it off a little bit more. It's all non-toxic, so like I'm not worried about what's getting on my hands. But if it does happen, if you get to it fast enough, it's not a big deal. But this wave is crashing quite a lot, so I'm going to add a lot more white to it. And what's also really cool is if I flip it, I can add more to the underside as well. Just a little dab motion, because it almost looks like churning water if you dab at it like that. Just kind of grab a bit of those waves, and you'll end up with one that looks like a lovely little wave. And so if I let that dry, I can also add more pearlescent on top. I have it be a little shimmer. And now the top of my water area where it meets the sand has the little shimmer, almost like the water is bubbles and sparkling, which brings me joy. We love a good sparkle around here. Now, you could call it finished at this point, but I want to show you a couple different options of things you could add potentially to bring you a little bit of joy. Thank you, Amanda, for this one. So I actually used Posca markers. I actually grabbed the pack of white Posca markers, so there's 8 of them in here. They have all kinds of different tips because I just didn't know which one Amanda wanted to write on here, because she has wonderful handwriting. Mine is like chicken scratch, so I definitely guilted her into doing this for me. But you can see I have that sparkle with the bubbles and everything. But this is just a Posca marker, and you had to do a couple of layers to really get it nice and opaque though, because first layer I think is like a little bit transparent, but then you can go on top of it. It's the nature of this being so glossy, I think it just didn't want to grab onto it perfectly, but a couple layers and you get a beautiful writing when you have great handwriting. But you could very easily write the name of whatever beach you're at, or, you know, something really inspirational like vitamin C, you know, delightful. Now, for the person who is asking about something in your water, this is another option as well, by the way. I really loved using the oval birch. So this was actually, I started off with wood instead of it being the medium texture. Yeah, let's actually go to that side camera here. So this is the oval. I did the same thing with the sand, and you got the nice sparkle that's on the area where I had all the little glass beads. Now this, it got too dark, which is a little bit sad for me, but learn from my mistakes. I definitely had a little shark that I sculpted in there. I know you can probably just barely see it. If I actually tilt it a little bit more, you can probably see the outline of that. So what I did with that is I actually sculpted the shark. Hold on, let me grab this. Show this on the overhead camera here. And I just got medium all over my hands. So what I did is I actually just drew sort of the like outline of a shark. I looked up a picture of a shark and kind of copied the outline. It's super simple. I simplified it, but I wanted that shape and I wanted that size, and then I just took pencil and then I kind of copied the shape on there. And then I sculpted it with light modeling paste. I used light modeling paste and a palette knife. I kept it very basic, and you know how I used the palette knife to kind of flick the top of the gel for the wave? I did the exact same thing for the fins, and then you can actually see it right there. That's his little fin. But then I painted it I painted the background blue first, and then I sculpted that, and then I painted my shark a dark gray with like little spots on top, because I really should have gone lighter on the blue here. That's where I was talking about how I think I like the lighter blue, like this layer right here. If I had continued that the same over here, it would have been lighter, and you would have been able to see a lot more difference between the blue that I had here and my shark. You live, you learn. You guys can enjoy the potential of having your own sculptures in there. Like, I honestly was this close to going and getting a little kid's toy of like a shark, or like I almost wanted to say praying mantis. Sea pancake? What is a sea pancake?
Stingray.
Stingray. Thank you. This is how my brain is working today. I'm so sorry. I was like, I can come up with sea pancake, but I couldn't remember stingray. You're welcome. Enjoy that. I almost got a little stingray toy and just stuck it in there, and then put the blue crystal gel on top. That would have been an easy way of adding a fun little thing in there, but I decided to sculpt it with the light modeling paste, because I knew I could get the exact shape, the exact placement, and the exact size and what I wanted there, because I would be worried that a toy would come up off the surface too much. Like, you might have to like sand it down to be flat and just the top of it. So like, I didn't want to have to go through all of that. So sculpting it was a little bit easier, but I did add some glass beads right around where its little fin kind of comes out of the water, and then where its tail is hitting the top of the water too. Actually, yeah, you guys can see a little bit more when I turn it sideways, but there's my shark. Not a sea pancake. But that is how to make your own little beach painting. I hope you guys got a good amount of inspiration. One last thing I did want to show you was this one right here. This is actually, I did do a test with the fine sand. So this is the fine sand structure paste, I believe. But this is, if you're working smaller like this, I will say I liked that better than I liked the pumice, because it felt more like a beach and less like a rocky shore kind of a thing. It was just one of those things that, working so small, I felt like the sand kind of texture needed to be a little bit finer. Again, it comes out pure white, so like that was all just the paint color that I've added. But this one also does have the bioluminescence to it. Like, it has the water that when it crashes, it goes blue, which makes me so happy. And it's even in like the little bubbles. But there you go. Something a little hidden and a little fun. But I will say, I did this yesterday, last minute, and I don't think it's fully dried. It's really humid here. But I did it yesterday afternoon, I should say. and it's just still a little wet right here. So anybody who's asking about the dry time, this was the second layer. I don't know if that makes any difference. I feel like it might because it has to dry with the underlying layer being already really hard and rigid. So like it's still just evaporating out, but it's also really damp here. Like it's been raining all day. So that is my beach paintings. I hope I've inspired you guys to make your own. Of course, if you do make your own, please post it online and on any social media, tag JerrysArtarama. Amanda will find it and then show me, and it would bring me so much joy to see you guys' sea creations. But I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, join us next week because Michaela is going to be back on and is actually going to be going over our new acrylic markers and painting with acrylic markers, which I am so excited for. We've been obsessed with these. So it's going to be a really good show. But that was it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!